Hi, my name is Michel, also known as Varken on Github and elsewhere. In the past I've written a few books on creating Blender add-ons and developed both commercial and free add-ons. In this video series I would like to share my knowledge and experience with anyone who is eager to start developing Blender add-ons of their own. I will keep this intro video short and sweet and just talk a little bit about what you need to know before you start. The other videos in this series will all be much more hands-on and practical, and in the end I am sure you will be able to create your first add-on all on your own. I'm not gonna lie, there is a lot to learn, but you will see that it isn't all that difficult once you know where to look, and we will start out really simple. Add-ons are written in Python, so what can you do with Python in Blender, and how does it relate to those fancy geometry nodes? All data in Blender is accessible to Python. Both object data and user interface data, as well as the context, which can provide information on which objects are selected or whether we are in edit mode, etc. We can even have hooks that trigger on certain events, like frame changes for example, and we can create overlay graphics like those snap points here. But there are a few things we cannot do, for example act on render artifacts, that is, we cannot create new shader nodes. For that you would need open shading language, which is a complete topic on its own. We can add existing modifiers to an object, but we cannot implement new modifiers in Python itself. For that we would need geometry nodes. With all that in mind, Blender add-ons are probably most useful to automate tasks. Anything from creating a zip file from all frames after rendering an animation, to uploading the results to cloud storage, acting on frame changes, or exporting a mesh in a new file format. We can also manipulate objects, like moving things around, parenting, rigging, adding modifiers, adding vertex groups, etc. etc. Or manipulate the object data itself. For meshes, point clouds and curves, geometry nodes are often a better alternative, but even then it might be easier to implement a complex algorithm in Python than to use many nodes. Any other kinds of objects like lights, cameras and even the scene itself lend themselves better to an add-on solution. And we can also enhance the user interface. We can add menu entries, side panels and gizmos, or even overlay information on top of the View 3D area. So because almost everything in Blender is accessible from Python, there is no limit to what you can accomplish. The goal of this course is to get familiar with programming add-ons in Blender. We're not going to explore everything, because that would be impossible, but we focus on important concepts using small, practical examples that should be easy to follow and replicate. Along the way, you will learn how to create add-ons that transform objects, work with meshes, and even change the user interface. The idea here is to keep it all as simple as possible, while learning concepts that can be applied to all of Blender. This course contains several modules that cover different areas. Each module consists of several short videos that introduce new concepts, demonstrate in detail how to achieve something, and summarize important points. And sometimes we go on a little side quest to explore some options that go a little bit beyond beginner level, but should still be simple enough to follow. The code for each module is available on GitHub, and the video descriptions will also contain links to relevant sections of the Blender documentation. This is a beginner's course in creating add-ons for Blender, and while we try to keep it simple, that doesn't mean we are going slow. This means that you need to have some basic knowledge of Python. You don't have to be an expert, because we try to stay away from complicated constructions as much as possible and focus on utilizing Blender's Python API in a manner that focuses on readability. If you know what a class is, what an import statement does, and what a list comprehension is, you should be good to go. If you are really new to Python, you might want to look at some other resources to get you started. There are of course tons of online courses available, and quite a few are even completely free. For example, this one at W3 Schools. If you would rather read a book, which I can completely relate to, Python for Dummies, published by Wiley, might be a good start. And also Python Crash Course, published by No Starch Press, might be worth considering. And no, I'm not sponsored by them, I just like those books. If you can figure out what this code does, you should be good to go. It won't get any more complicated than this. You should also be comfortable with Blender. We use version 5.0, but any version 4 or later should work. You don't need to be an experienced artist to develop add-ons for Blender, but some familiarity with Blender is needed, otherwise it would be difficult to understand what you are doing or to explore things on your own. So for example, you should be able to split windows, change editor types and manipulate the default cube a bit. But you needn't be a modeler, rigger or any kind of artist, but it doesn't hurt if you are either. In fact, a lot of artists do want to develop add-ons on their own to enhance their workflow, for example, and that is a perfect motivation to start. Finally, you should also have access to Blender, of course, but that's all the software you need. You may choose to use a different editor or IDE to write your code, but you can do this inside Blender's text block editor quite well. Something we stick to as much as possible in this course so that everybody can follow the examples exactly. The idea is to extend this course and add more modules and lessons if enough people are interested. So your feedback and suggestions are very welcome, both in the comments or as an issue in the GitHub repository. So with all this out of the way, let's see if we can build us an add-on. See you in the next video.